Well, good morning and welcome, Jingi Walla, to the Indica tent. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we stand, the Witjable Waible people from the Bundjalung Nation. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. And we're kicking off the morning with the fabulous Tony Bauer, Mullaway. He hardly needs any introduction. He's world famous. He's going to talk about cannabis, medical cannabis, and I'll just turn it over to him. And if you want to come and have a discussion, come and tap me on the shoulder, and we've got an extra microphone so the video can hear your question as well. Thank you, Tony.
Thanks very much, yeah. Well, I don't know. Introduce myself. I started from Mullaway Medical Cannabis. I started doing the medical cannabis about 20 years ago, and well, basically I was the first person in Australia to open up the medical dispensary here in Australia. Started annoying the government over different things. I started doing THCA extractions first off, mainly for older people, because we used to do here at the embassy here at Nimbin and that, they used to do cookies for a lot of people, and a lot of the elders and that found that because what I grew was a different breed, and when they used that leaf for cookies and that, it made them giggle a lot, and they didn't really like the laughing and giggling, they called it, and they asked if it was possible to take medical cannabis without getting the giggles all the time with it. And I knew a few people that had done research. Their parents were doctors, and they'd done research on cannabis and that before the government. So they went through some of the science with me about the cannabis and that, and I seen some things where scientists had said that using different extractions they got some really good results, but it needed more looking into, you know. And because the government at the time wouldn't allow research into that area, and of course scientists can't research areas unless they've got the money to do it, and the government's got to give them that money and permission to do it, you know. So because I didn't work for the government on the thing, well, and I was a commercial grower all my life of cannabis, right from when I was a young kid, so I realised that I could do it myself basically, and so I done a few extractions, and then we sent them out to people, and got a lot of really good results with people sending back you know, good stuff about how they were feeling better from it. And so I basically, you know, just kept working in that area of THCA mainly, first off, to try and get it through the government, because THCA is non-psychotropic, you know, so, and it's only micro doses of THC that are in it. So I kept trying to do that. I registered with the TGA, Therapeutic Goods, here in Australia. I'm still registered with them. I was the first cannabis company to even try and get a medicine through the government, and still nowhere in the world has anybody been able to do it. I got it to the stage where all I had to do was do the grows and then put it to the TGA, but the New South Wales government stepped in then and started harassing me a lot, even though I had most of the stuff. They wouldn't allow me a licence to actually go ahead and do it. So I registered the plant breed that I grew. I developed myself here in Australia, and it produces different cannabinoids than you can find anywhere else in the world. because we have a different climate here, allows us to produce much stronger cannabis than you can find anywhere else in the world, even though they tell you all these other things. There's a lot of hype behind all of that, but here in Australia we actually produce the strongest cannabis anywhere in the world. And I actually have the strongest breed that's ever been tested anywhere in the world by scientists and everything. So I kept working on that, and because I actually registered the breed through IP Australia, it made it hard to move further because the government wouldn't allow me to move further or give me a license to be able to register the actual medicine that I could make, you know. Because through TGA you have to be able to repeat the medicine over and over again on the or otherwise you can't register it as well as do the trials and everything. But you've got to have a repeatable medicine, and that's what stops everybody from doing it, because they don't have a standard method of growing things, you know. I can you do cuttings or a plant, then I can give each one of you a plant, the same cuttings off the same plant, and you can all take them home and grow them. And when we take them to science to test them, they'll all be different because of your method of doing things changes the plant, because as they reckon the plant actually changes to what it feels from you. The air you breathe on the plant, they reckon the plant can actually tell what you need. So if you need certain cannabinoids, the plant can actually change and produce them. I don't know whether it's true or not, but I've grown, what I done was grew the plant 3 different methods all the time, you know. So each breed, and as I was breeding, I'd grow up in 3 different methods, and then I was able to get it tested through science over here at the university in Lismore. I was able to get it tested for years before the government found out what I was doing, and then they stepped in and stopped that too. But I was able to do a lot of stuff without the government actually knowing about it, you know. And like I say, that allowed me to be able to repeat the medicine over and over again, so I can make a medicine and I can keep that medicine stable for years, which science still doesn't even know how to do, which is pretty weird, you know, because it's not that hard to work out. But as I've said to different scientists, you know, you can only test or know about whatever I give you. If I give you a lump of glue that's gone dry, can you tell me how many tubes that come in, or how long it took to dry, or what was it beforehand? You can only tell me what it is now, what it is changed into when I give it to you. And because science, right from back in the 50s, have only tested cannabis that come from the police. So whatever the police found on the street, they could go and test. And but you can't repeat that because you don't know where it comes from. You don't know who grew it, you don't know what breed it is, you don't know how it was grown, nothing at all about it. So it's not repeatable to be able to do it again. To be able to get through science, you have to be able to repeat that process, you know. And, pardon me, my method of doing things, it allowed me to be able to repeat the process because everything was written down. So how much heat I used, how long it was left, how long the cuttings were in for, everything about it was all repeatable because of the way I done things, you know. And still, like I say, still today I could go and get registered this medicine through TGA. The government still won't allow me to do it, even though it helps a lot of people, and it's been shown to help kids with that have seizures and that. Incredible. I used to look after about 200 people, but I used to have to grow that many plants. It was pretty hard because the government knew what I was doing. So they decided to step in and keep coming around and busting me, you know. So I ended up doing a couple of jail terms over it. No big deal. It wasn't a long time. I had got good lawyers and everything, so it wasn't a thing. And in the finish, they had to leave me alone because, well, they had no choice. I wasn't going to stop, so they had no choice. They had to leave me alone. And like I said, I had good lawyers, so I don't harass them as much as I used to now, which is probably a good thing for me and the government, you know. But they have let things move ahead a bit compared to what it used to be like. Like I say, a lot of it now, it's still controlled by the government. Medical cannabis, the laws haven't changed. People say to me all the time, oh, they've changed and done things. Well, they haven't. You know, go and check the laws out. You still can't smoke cannabis. You still can't drive your car. If you have cancer and need cannabis, you can go in and get a script to take it. You're allowed to have that cannabis. You're not allowed to smoke it on the street. You're not allowed to work. You're not allowed to drive your car. So nothing's changed on the, you still suffer the same things as you did years ago because of the way the law is now and the government is, because nothing is registered. Now they basically the police turn a bit of a blind eye to what goes on. As you know, you can see how things go on because they don't really want you in court, and they change the laws so that you can't go to court to fight your case. You get caught driving your car, you can't go to court and put your case up to the judge to say, look, I didn't smoke cannabis that day, I smoked it the day before, I wasn't stoned, it's just the leftover stuff that's in my blood, basically, that your system's cleaning out. It's not psychotropic, you're not stoned or anything. Under science, you're only stoned for about 20 minutes or something anyway, and then it's just your body's getting rid of it. It's not a serious thing. You can go and drive your car for 2 hours. You should be able to do anything at all that normal people do, you know. Pardon me. But the police do have tests where they can actually test you and say whether it's psychotropic that's in your blood or whether it's whether you're stoned or not. But that test costs a lot more money for them to do, whereas the one they got now, what tells them, they can tell with the test now whether you had a smoke a month ago. They just don't do it because you imagine how many people would be in court if that actually happened on the thing. So what they do now is test for certain levels in your blood so they can tell if you had it yesterday or the day before, not last week. Because, like I say, if they do that, all the people they'd have in court would be incredible. And like I said, they don't allow you to go and put your case up on which is pretty silly. And it's the way the government does it on the thing. You can, if you've got good lawyers, you can fight the case, you can go to court over it. The point is that 99% of people don't have a good enough lawyer. They just accept it and say, well, the law doesn't allow you to go to court on a thing. Well, it does allow you, but you have to go under the right conditions. You have to go under, and you've got to have a lawyer that'll fight for your human rights to be able to do things, you know. And them lawyers, as far as I know, there's only one here in Australia, human rights lawyer. I've got him, I know him. So the police, even though all these years I've done what I've done, I used to drive and bring kilos of cannabis, medical cannabis here into Nimbin every week for literally years and years and years, and the police never used to form me up, and if they did, they'd ask me, did you smoke cannabis today? And of course, I'm not an idiot. I'm not going to say yes, I did. You know, which even though I did, I smoked a lot of cannabis then. I don't anymore. And when I'd say no, I don't, they'd rightio, well, on your way. And I have never ever in all these years been drug tested. And I think because I know the law and I got good lawyers, so I can take them to court and I'll win the case. And if I win the case, then you can win the case, because you just need somebody to go through the system, win. I've already set a couple of precedents in court what people are using now to allow them to have cannabis and that on the what's owned. But that's the reason why I've never been tested, is because I know that I'll win the case if ever I do get tested. Well, not anymore. I haven't smoked for quite a few years now. It's, I'm what they call a bit of a pig with cannabis and that, and alcohol, so I had to give up that too. I don't like having little bits. I used to smoke quite a lot. You know, ounces a week of high grade, the best cannabis here. I won the Cannabis Cup here in Nimbin, either indoor or outdoor for 10 years straight, and then I give up entering the cup because I thought it was a bit unfair. Well, I have access to the best seeds here in Australia and around the world. I have a lot of friends all around the world because of what I do. I know a lot of people all around the world, so I had access to the best seeds anywhere in the world, you know. So, and when you bring them here, what's good overseas in Canada or America or Africa, Africa's a good place to get seeds from if you actually want to get seeds to grow here in Australia, because they have a better climate. Whereas, and if you get seeds from America, it can take you 2 or 3 years before that actually produces what it should do here in Australia. It's not like, you know, because whatever they buy and get over there, their climate's so different. It takes quite a while for that to change, and you've got to know what you're doing when you're breeding that to be able to get them cannabinoids and terpenes, myrcines and things that are in the plant to produce properly here, and them amounts that you get over here, you know, which are much more. We actually produce, because of our sunlight, we produce a bigger crystal here in Australia, even though it doesn't, not necessarily more crystals. You know, the hash on the plant is what I'm talking about. Ours is a lot bigger here. So anybody that's ever done cold extractions using ice methods and the fine mesh and stuff like that, if ever they grow outdoors especially, and then do an extraction, if you check your mesh afterwards, a lot of your full crystal is actually still in there, it won't pass through. I've done tests on it years ago, and our crystal is much bigger. You've got to use a mesh, a much bigger size mesh to make that crystal, to allow it to fall through. Only the broken crystal will go through in what's named. So I've lost the line of thought that I was on then, but
big crystals.
Yeah, that'll make you lose the line of thought.
So are they trichomes?
Big one.
Are they what's known as trichomes?
Yeah, the trichomes, yeah. It's just, like I say, a lot of the stuff that, because of the climate here, you know, our sun passes higher in the sky, and people don't realise that the resin on the plant is produced to protect the plant. So if you grow it over in the shade there, then it'll produce resin and THC, but it won't be as much as what it'll produce out in the sun, because it needs it in the sun to protect the plant, stop it drying out. basically it's reflecting the sunlight away from the plant on the thing. People think it's sort of something that the plant naturally produces. It's not. It's produced because of the sun. So in countries where the sun isn't as hot or anything like we get here, then the crystal will be smaller and not as much on the plant, you know. So, and that allows for the terpenes and myrcines and that in low doses overseas will be much higher on the plant here.
Can I ask a question? You were mentioning about the sunlight helping it produce the crystals and the resin. I often wondered about that because a lot of plants produce resin as a method of reducing water loss. So I was just wondering if that had any kind of impact on it, and whether it's worth kind of even water stressing your plants to make them produce more of the resin.
Well, it is for water loss. It's like I said, it stops the plant from drying out. It'll reflect the sunlight away from the plant. I don't know about stressing the plant water loss because that affects the roots of the plant, and affecting the roots of the plant can take weeks for the plant to get over.
Yeah, that sounds fair enough. So
know,
don't water stress your plants, folks.
Yeah, if you want to stress your plant or get root something to help the roots of the plant, either in droughts and that, yeast is a good thing. Just red yeast. Put it in a bit of warm water overnight, a spoonful, a little bit of sugar, just like you're making a loaf of bread, but leave it overnight. That'll help your plant with drought, water loss, and or even too much water. I don't exactly know what it does, but I'd say it's got something to do with having live bacteria in the soil.
Probably help with the soil microorganisms. You know, soil's not just dirt; it is a living entity full of microbes and all that sort of thing.
Well, that is the best way to actually grow your plant, rather than using nutrients that you buy. You're better off trying to activate the soil itself to get, so your plant can get what it needs out of there. Nutrients are good, don't get me wrong, on the but in a lot of ways, they mainly use nutrients to help people get a better looking bud, so it's a tighter, closer, and when people look at it, oh, that's a nice bud on the thing. But all the tests that I done here years ago, by the strongest oak that I've ever grown was outside. It wasn't a tight bud. It was an opened up, nice, not I wouldn't say a light bud, but not solid. Yeah. Well, if you've got a tight bud, that's what I try to explain to people. That's really hard for your resin to grow on it, the crystal to grow on that plant. It's got to grow into itself, which is hard to be able to do on the thing. And I know through lots of extractions, gas extractions especially, that when you extract a plant, if you've got that nice open bud, you can see all the crystal all over it on the thing. And when you extract it, you end up with a lot of resin, especially through a gas, even through an ice extraction, but through a gas extraction tells you a lot more, because that works on a tighter bud better. So you can break that up and you can extract all the resin out of it through the gas much easier, and it gives you a much better idea on what's in it. And through them methods, growing the plant that's open and allows all the crystal on it, you'll end up with a lot more resin. And a lot of science, if you read the old stuff, they'll tell you on the thing that they use when they're doing extraction. They used a gram of cannabis, they extracted the resin, there was this much resin, and then your THC level is this much in that. Well, now when you read science, they've skipped the resin content. They go straight from we used a gram of cannabis and this is your THC level. Well, your THC level tells you what if it's done under gas extractions, which is very rarely done now. A lot of what people tell you is 22% THC they got in that plant. It's a different method that they use for testing the plant. When that's done under gas, that's only 2%. So you actually need to cross 40% on the thing before you're even up to 4% THC level on the thing. It's because they use this entirely different method of testing. It gathers the non-psychotropic THC that's in there, and then it mixes it with it and then tells you the whole plant. And they do the same with CBD. You can take one plant in there that grows THC and CBD, and you can ask them the THC level, and they'll say, oh, it's 22%. And then you can do another test on it and you say, well, what's the CBD level? And they'll tell you 22%. Now, you can't have 22% of both of these things in there, even though it is possible. It's not really possible, you know. CBD's really controversial with CBDs, I always have been. They're a government created thing that was never ever found in cannabis up until 96, I think it was. It's owned by DuPont, so they made it. It's under patent. A lot of people, if anyone knows anything about a patent, knows that you can't register a natural product. It's not possible. You're not allowed to do it. So even though their patent has run out now, it was under patent for years, and it was owned by a drug company. So if it was any good, they'd have done something with it, you know. And the government push on CBD was always that we bred it out. That's what they used to tell us, that people here in Australia bred it out in a plant. And I said to a couple of government people that I know hundreds of them now, I know we're smart, we're really good here in Australia, but are we that smart that without even getting together, we done something that you didn't like? And we all done it together at the same time. You know, we're not that smart, you know. I know we're fairly smart here in Australia, but we're not that smart, you know. It's just not possible. And if CBDs were real, then the government, American government, would have registered them back in the 50s. They would have put them under patent when they put all the other cannabinoids and everything else that they could find in THC. They patented all that. So, and if you have a look through the science and the history thing, there is no mention of CBDs up until about 96, 97, when all of a sudden it come in. And pardon me, if you look into the science on CBD, it doesn't do anything. Nothing whatsoever. It's not an anti-inflammatory. It is a tiny little bit psychoactive, 80 times less than THC. So it is nothing. It doesn't do anything. The science in it tells you that they tried 20, I think it was 20% THC on people, and they found that it was too much. It was too strong, so they were getting psychoactive effects from it, strong psychoactive effects and overdoses. So what they done, they put 10% CBD with it, and they found that was better. I'm like, what's that? Well, you just took 10% of the THC out. So why is it better? I could have done that with a glass of water. I didn't need to add this other thing that I called something. I could have just done that with a glass of water. I didn't have to do anything. I could have just said, well, give them 10% THC now instead of 20%, and then things were fine, you know, or better. So, like, CBD is sort of known as this equaliser, or I can't think of the words they use it now because I really don't like CBDs. I never have. They're, like I say, they're a myth. I've never used them. I've never had them in cannabis. They in low doses in cannabis oil, hemp seed oil. They're in low doses in that. That's because the hemp plant was bred to have CBDs. It was bred to drop the THC level in the plant, which allowed them to keep growing that plant and researching it in different countries because of the government not liking the THC levels. CBDs actually come from breeding ruderalis, which comes from Russia. It's only a small plant, but it's used for fibre, and it will breed with cannabis plants, but it doesn't produce any THC whatsoever. Nothing, no resin, anything comes on the plant. And when they bred it and crossbred them like that, the plant started producing CBD. And in strong sunlight, people don't realise that in strong sunlight, CBD plants, when that crystal changes, has a switch go off in it at a certain time, and it'll either go to THC or CBD on the thing. But in strong sunlight, that switch only goes one way, and that's the THC. That's why here in Australia, our CBD levels, even in the fibre plant, I don't know of anybody, and I've done a bit of research, hand growing of CBDs and testing, that have been able to cross 4%. It just won't do it. It's not possible. Our sun's too strong. In winter time, you probably could get it to change, but you wouldn't. You'd only in winter time you'd only have low crystal levels in the plant, so you wouldn't. It wouldn't be a very strong plant. You wouldn't get much out of it or anything like that because of the sunlight thing here in Australia. It doesn't thing. I hear a lot of talk about CBDA. It is a anti-inflammatory, but again, it's produced in that small amount in the plant, and it's only on the stems of the plant. It's not in the head of the plant. It's only on the stem that you get out. A lot of people don't use the stem for extractions. So, and if you wanted to get CBD out of the plant, you'd only use the stem of the plant to do it. You'd have to know what you're doing, because when even any one of us, not me because I do know what I'm doing with it, but any one of you could go and do an extraction on a plant and get the THC out of it, or the CBDs, whatever you like, you're going to lose 1/3 if you know what you're doing. That's if you know what you're doing, you're going to lose 1/3. So if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to lose a half of what's in the plant. Now, if I'm trying to extract CBDA, and I'm only starting with this minute amount, and I know what I'm doing, and I'm only using the stem of the plant to do it, I'm going to lose 1/3 of it. So if you only have this tiny little bit, and then you lose 1/3 of it, how much of it have you got in the finish on the thing? It's not enough. It competes with the other things, and we already know that THC is the strongest anti-inflammatory here on earth that works on people. A lot of people don't realise a lot of our drugs are compared when they make them. Drug companies, they compare them with THC. You know, Aspros, well, that's how they were developed. They were compared against THC on the anti-inflammatory effects. But heaps of our drugs that are anti-inflammatories, the drug company goes back to THC, and it goes through all the research of THC, or it'll grow it again, then they test it against the new drug they're developing. on the thing, cannabis has been used as a comparative drug for drug companies for forever. It's, Aspros and opioids, believe it or not, heroin was the first drug that was allowed through the government, American drug company things on the They put Aspros and heroin up together, and heroin got through and Aspros were knocked back. and that's a true fact. They were compared against THC on the things. In the finish, heroin got knocked back away from it, but it was the first legal drug for people to be able to use on the thing. And Aspros was the second one. And like I say, they were both tested against THC. Today it's still the same thing. When they do things, they usually compare all of that things against what's a known thing is the THC. Because THC, the cannabis plant, has cannabinoids. You could make it up out of the dry grass here, the grass on the floor, go over there, get a few weeds, get all the rest of it, and if you know what you're doing, you can take all the cannabinoids you want, and then all of a sudden you have what's in cannabis on the thing. Yeah, but you got to know what you're doing. And in our fruit and vegetables, and that's why people will say, well, this is good for you and that's good for you on the thing, because lettuce, beetroot, all these things have all different cannabinoids in them, and they're just cannabis is the plant where all of them are found together. It's not a brain surgeon sort of thing, and that's why the government doesn't allow it, is because you have all of these things in the one plant, and if you want to extract all of them out for yourself, and especially for yourself, you have to actually do it when it's green. You can't dry the plant to do it. You've got to do it while it's still green. To gather a lot of the terpenes and myrcines are found on the outside of the plant. So when you dry that plant, you lose them. They go. The plant, as soon as you pull it out, it stops making them. And as you dry it, it just disappears and goes on the thing. A lot of the extractions that I do have always been done on the plant straight away when you pick it. It's not even done the next day. You have to actually do it straight away when you pick the plant. Years ago, when I was working with the scientist over here at Lismore, I tried to tell them that the crystal that's on the plant has a skin on it. And he said to me, no, it doesn't. I said, well, mate, it does. The thing is that yous have always done the extraction the same way. They run the gas through it, they mix it all up, and then tell you what's in this once they've got it out and all mixed up. But what's in that plant first up is altogether different. And I told him how to strip the crystal, and he done a paper, done a paper. I never even got to mention it. But you can take the plant, the crystal, and you can take the outside off. So now we know that these terpenes and myrcines and that are on the outside of the crystal. They're not inside it, they're on the outside. And that's why you lose them when it dries. And that was just done through, like I told him, that's because your gas method that they use a certain pressure and a certain temperature to get that out. And if you change that pressure, but they didn't get the money from the government to research it. The fellow that done over at Lismore had to do it on his own back, because the government wouldn't allow him to do that. And by using a real low pressure, you could strip them cannabinoids off the outside of the plant, off the outside of the crystal, and then put them in a different extraction so that you could test them. And then by using a higher pressure, you could strip the inside, not too high much more, but you could strip the inside of the crystal and leave the shell. And then you could test the shell. and find out what's in that and thing, and that's what he ended up doing. And like I say, he put out a paper, and I never even got a mention over it, but up until that was done at Lismore, they never knew that the cannabis had a shell on the actual crystal, that confined it. And that's why sometimes when people do extraction, especially if they're doing alcohol extraction or a low heat THCA extraction, it's hard to do it if you haven't broken that crystal, so you have to actually find a way of breaking that crystal to allow for that centre bit to get into your extraction, or otherwise it'll stay there. And you can still end up with some of the things, and it'll taste like it's got THC in it and all the rest of it, but it actually only is really low doses because the oil or the alcohol that you've used doesn't get into it. That's why a lot of the extractions they use heat, because that'll dissolve that shell, and that allows all the stuff that's inside the crystal to get into your extraction. What's the name? It's just a well, like I say, I realised it years ago, and because I was able to get tests done through science and that through the universities, I found out a lot more than science knew at the time, and probably still now, because they're still not allowed to do the testing they want, and heaps of people that make stuff, even the stuff that you buy through get off the government or so-called government sources, and that haven't been tested on the thing. They tell you this is certain THC level and this is certain CBD level, but if that's in a medicine, it hasn't been tested. They're telling you that because that was what was in the plant, and that's what it said on the packet when they bought the seeds from America or Canada. That's not actually what's in their thing. I got on to different doctors and that about what's in there to be able to get an actual scientific thing on what's in that medicine, and I know it's 20% this and it's 20%. Well, what's the rest of it? Because if you've done a test on that, you can tell me what the rest of it is. And they can't. Yeah, they'll just tell you it's got this much of this and this much of that. And I think, well, hang on, what is the rest of it? You haven't done a test on it, or you can tell me. Is that water? Is it oil? Is it what? It's nothing, because I know by the tests that I've done that you get a full readout. It's got this much of this much of that, this much of that, that and that and that, and then the rest of it is this. On the thing, and none of the stuff that you buy, it'll all tell you it's got this much in it of THC or this much CBD, and some of it even CBG they're talking about now. But from what I can understand, that's a degrading thing, which means that you picked your plant too late, and that so your plant's actually started to degrade. What's the name? It's never. Again, it's not something that's just naturally found. If you picked your plant at the right time, it shouldn't be in there. Yeah, my time's up.
When is the right time?
Well, it's hard to say. It's one of them things you've sort of got to work out for yourself. It's hard because I've done it all my life, so it's easy for me to look at a plant and know. But again,
what do you look for?
Well, usually your smells and things like that are what you look for. Them terpenes and myrcenes, like I say, it'll get to a stage and your plant will stop producing them on the thing. I know of a lot of people over the years that have picked their plant and they said, "Oh, it smelled beautiful." And then I picked it and it smelled like this on the thing. Well, you left it too late. Your plant stopped producing them a week ago or more on the thing. So you actually left your plant way too late. And a lot of people like to leave it until it's got the most amount of this or that this happens. And some people even talk about the little white pistil thing that sticks up, and when that starts to die, that's too late.
Yeah, so it was always sort of my very vague understanding that you might wait until a few of them go red. It's like a percentage of red and white ones.
Well, yeah, because that's happening because some of them are produced earlier than others. That's all that is on the thing. So again, it's not. I wouldn't look for a percentage of either one or anything. If the ones that are on your stem, they'll come out first. If they're died, then you're at the right time. But as in your head, well, you shouldn't really be able to see them because the ones that were produced earlier are in your head. They're not on the outside. Only the ones that were produced later, you'll see.
So if you're seeing too many red hairs on it, then you know it's
too late. It's too late, yeah. It's not too late, but
no,
you're losing things.
Yeah, it's not prime.
Yeah. If you're going to do an extraction out of it, if it's only for THC, then it's not going to matter a real lot, But if you're after THCA or some of the other cannabinoids, then it's a bit late. So,
Yeah, sorry. It seems like there'd be different compounds and different things that'd be present at different stages of, like you're saying anyway.
Yeah, they are. But they're all sort of at their peak at a certain time, yeah.
So it's all about the timing.
If you don't mind, what was the name of the author of the article that you're speaking about that did do what research they did do that you're communicating with in Lismore?
Oh, it was about the, I'm not sure what it was actually called now, but it had to do with the actual crystal, the skin on the crystal. I'm not sure on it, what it was actually called now. That's 15 years ago or something,
Yeah, no, so I was curious. I'll find it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, sounds like, just interrupt for 1 second. Is Rowan in the tent? Is Rowan here? Rowan is our next speaker. And if he's not actually here, and it looks like there are some questions, so are people happy to continue the conversation? Are you Rowan?
No, I'm pointing. Next week.
You got a question?
Who's the next speaker? Who's the next speaker? He's speaking next.
Who is?
Sorry?
On the board.
No, Vortex on a bit later. Rowan is on now for 20 minutes. Yeah, well, that's on my program. You are up, but not quite yet. Sorry. Sorry for the confusion. Yes, well, unless Rowan comes here, let me pass the mic around.
Hi, I've got a mic now. As far as methods of extraction, initial extraction go, no, there's CO2 like you were saying, and ethanol. Ethanol is obviously more available to people, probably than CO2.
Yeah, so long as you're using alcohol and not ethanol.
What's the difference between...
well, they're in the same class because they're all in an ethanol class. Alcohol has been carbon filtered, so it's taken a lot of the toxins out. Ethanol itself is toxic, it's poisonous to people.
Okay.
So
it needs to be charcoal filtered.
Yeah, if you're going to use it for extractions, and especially if you're going to evaporate it down on the thing, because that will concentrate all them toxins.
They'll be left behind.
Yeah. Ethanol is because I have to make my own alcohol for the tinctures, and ethanol is what you get rid of first. It's the toxic.
I thought methanol was what you get rid of first, and then the ethanol is generally what people add to beverages.
Oh, I don't think
There's
that.
various compounds in your foreshops that you're getting rid of, but generally you're getting rid of methanol and some other things,
Yeah, ethanol is a class, I think, of, alcohol's in that class, other things are all in that class. I think what they use a lot of now is isopropylene. Isopropylene, yeah, and that's getting fairly close to a pure alcohol, and it has a lot of the toxins taken out of it. From what I can understand, I wouldn't use it myself.
Yeah, I've always been more wary of isopropyl alcohol.
Yeah. Well, that's what a lot of the stuff that they use now, and a lot of the stuff that goes through the government is used. They don't use alcohol.
Yeah, because isopropyl, you get a much deeper extraction. It can penetrate the cell a lot deeper than ethanol, the higher the percentage, and isopropyl obviously being the highest of that percentage, 100%. Yeah, you get a really clean extraction.
Yeah, that's not actually. That's probably what science tells you.
Yeah, of course.
But as again, they can only tell you what they've tested.
Yep.
On the thing, that's not actually right.
Yeah, well, I guess
when you drop the levels of things, and now we know that. See, they always say that nothing is in THC dissolves in water. On the thing, that's what science has always said. Well, will you go and pick your plant after rain? Nobody does that. They always leave it for a few days after the rain. On the thing, so there is something there.
It does make sense.
In water, yeah. On the thing, it's just that it's never been taken off and never been given to science, so that they can check it and find out. On the thing.
So it's to do with polarity as well, because different compounds have different polarities, and different solvents basically exploit that relationship, and like likeness attracts to likeness. So like the different solvents will have a better pull rate for various things.
Well, yeah, in some ways it does, but that's what I was saying about the plant actually having a skin, the crystal having a skin on it. If that's not broken, then it's hard so some solvents are able to get through that skin better on the thing, or you need to break that skin and allow the other solvent, and that's why a lot of times they use heat with it, because it doesn't matter what solvent it is, it only has an amount that it can take on unless you use heat. And once you start using heat, all of a sudden, you know, like you can put a kilo of resin in with a litre of alcohol, and it'll only get on up to a certain level. It doesn't matter how much resin you put in there, it will still only absorb a certain level on what's known. But you add heat, and now all of a sudden that level will change. Because it dissolves the skin on the crystal. And it allows the heat to dissolve it and get through. So, you know, if you're going to make a resin or something out of your crystal on the thing, where you have to use heat there to do it. If you do a THCA extraction and use coal, you're only going to end up with a tiny little bit of resin at the finish. But if you add heat to that alcohol and then do it and then evaporate it off, it's gonna be 4 or 5 times the amount that you get out of it.
What heat would you recommend?
Well, just under boiling, you know.
Right.
Yeah, I wouldn't try and boil it, you know, under that. But any sort of heat, it doesn't have to be that strong. It's the period of time that it's allowed there for. On the thing, it's like when you're cooking up oil or butter, you know, on the thing. So some people will say, I cooked your leaf for this long, and, you know, and it was better and the rest of it. Well, it doesn't really make that much difference, because it's a certain period, over about 2 hours, nearly everything that you're going to get out of that plant will come out in that time span. So you can leave it all night. I've heard of people that let it simmer all night and stuff like that, when they're making their butter and that, you know. You're actually losing more than you're gaining, you know, because the heat's there too long, way too long, and it's evaporating off, you know.
So Sorry. One of the things that I've heard, I don't know if it's misinformation or not, is that the longer you leave it in ethanol, or alcohol, it starts to strip it of the chlorophyll and other things that you don't necessarily want in there too. What's a good time for
well,
to
if
stay in
it's not under heat, it shouldn't take any of the chlorophyll.
Okay.
Yeah, it shouldn't. But a lot of my extractions that I do now, I don't use the leaf and that. I'll extract it. The leaf and the head have different cannabinoids in them. So the resin on the leaf is different to the resin on the head on the thing. So depending on what you're trying to extract out, you can mix it up and use the leaf and the head together. Or if you want certain cannabinoids, then you only use the leaf or you only use the head. What's name? It's not but my extractions that I do for the kids and all that now, mainly for a cleaner product, I don't use the actual leaf or head. I do an extraction and just get the crystals off the plant.
Yeah.
And then.
So if you were going to do an alcohol extraction, would you have a constant heat source on the alcohol while?
If I was up
herb is in
THC, yeah.
And so just under boiling point.
Yeah, well,
And
it
keep
can be a fairly bit below that, but yeah.
And how long would you leave it in there for? Do you think?
Well, like I say, a couple of hours, few hours is usually enough. That's usually about as much as you're going to be able to get on what's name. But if I was doing it using crystal, I'd use that same crystal again because I'm not going to be able to get everything out of that crystal under one process, unless you use, if you wanted to, you could use the crystal, go to gas extraction and then dissolve the gas extraction into the alcohol. But if you're using heat, you're only after THC.
And if you were to get the terpenes off, 'cause my understanding, some of the terpenes are water soluble.
Yeah.
And you can take them off, say, in flour still, just with the boiling water at a lower temperature. Can you do that and then do an extraction on the THC after?
If you were using heat with water,
Yeah.
I would think you'd get other stuff besides the terpenes. And if you were using heat, you would lose a lot of your terpenes.
You'd need it very low.
Yeah. Again, I wouldn't use any heat if I was after the terpenes on those things.
Okay.
Yeah. No, because it's enemy.
What method do you use for terpenes?
Again, just cold extractions, but I gather all of what I can get out of the plant, out of the crystal. So all the terpenes, all the myrcenes, I take out in one extraction because, well, that's what I give the kids and that. So, and I like to keep that so it's only THCA. And microdoses of THC, psychoactive, on the thing. Yeah. So a lot of the
Keep the temperature low.
Yeah. A lot of the other methods, well, I've done them 20 years ago or something. I don't use them now because unless I'm trying to help someone with cancer, then it only goes to kids and that. So I don't do THC. Only in one medicine, that's for people with cancer. And when you're doing that, you lose nearly everything else.
Right, yeah. You go to raise the temperature so high.
Yeah.
All right, what a fascinating conversation. And the good news is Tony is here all weekend and will be back in the Indica tent tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. So
yeah, well, I'm only just here on the hill.
He's up on the hill, so
anybody wants
pop
to
in.
talk, so, yeah.
It sounds like a friendly chat.